talking about new Daf. The only people here, the original Daf members. Here we are. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. Okay.
When the going gets tough.
We have the Mishnah on Samech Zayin Amid Beis. Samech Zayin Amid Beis. So Bola Eitzel what? Yeah. Bola Eitzel Par B'Soya Hanisrafim. Now again, he's going over the avodah. He's done all the avodah sadam of the dam of the par. He's done all the avodah sadam of the seir. Now, even though these were going to be burnt, these are parim v'siyum hanisrafim, meaning they're not going to be put on the mizbeach, their limbs, but the imurim, the part that goes to Hashem, does in fact go on the mizbeach. That's no different than any other carbon. So, bola itzel par b'soyer hanisrafim, karon, he rips them open. Es emurehem, and he takes out their innards, the parts that go to Hashem. Nasna b'megis, he puts them in a dish, the mashmanat klishares, v'hiktiron, and he burns them. Now Rashi has a problem. The Gemara says a problem. He does not burn them at this period in time. He burns them later. When it says v'hiktiron gam mizbeach, he's putting it in this dish to be burnt on the mizbeach. He's not putting it in to burn on the mizbeach. He's putting it to be burnt, but it's not going to be burnt now. Kolon b'maklois, they would take the limbs of the parim and they'd intertwine them. Hang on a second. I'm gonna go ahead, and they would intertwine it. Take a look at the picture. You see how they're taking it outside. Take a look at the picture, how it's intertwined. The par and the soyer are intertwined. You see the way they intertwine the legs. It seems to be, I don't know exactly why, but they didn't intertwine the legs. Rashi says, "Kamin kaliya," like a braid. Arba b'nei adam noisim shnei moitos. 4 people carry 2 sticks. Shnaim lefnim u'shnaim la'achar. 2 people in front and 2 people in the back. U'mahalchim moit eitzel moit. They would have 1 stick connected the other. Ha'par b'aseir nesunim aleihem murkovim zeh al zeh, riding one on the other. U'koifam zeh tachazeh kamin kaliya. They're in one piece. They're not dismembered yet. They only ripped open the stomachs, the haitzi imurim, to take out the imurim to give to part to Hashem. So this, again, I think now that you saw the Rashi, it explains beautifully you see the 4 people, the way they're carrying it, they're complete, they're whole, and they're intertwined together. So this, by the way, it's a very nice, whenever you learn with your grandchildren or something, this is great. These are picture mishnayos, they're wonderful. At which point in time do the people who are being moitzi l'sreifa, we're going to burn this, we're going to see where we burn them, at which point in time do they become tamei, meaning the begodim become tamei because they're tamei? As soon as they leave the chayma of the azara, now the pashtus chayma azara means they leave what we call machna shchina. They're going to machna levia, right? That's as soon as they leave over there. Harabayis is machna levia, and then Reb Shimon and Mishiyatza are beruban. A much later time, only when the or takes hold of most of the limbs when they're being burnt. At that period of time, they're tamei. So that's much later. That's when they puts the machna and burning it, as we're going to see. And we're going to see. In order to understand this Gemara, you have to understand there were. Well, let me give to you a little later. I don't want to go out of order. Okay, so it's mashma. They would take the imurim, they put them in a dish and burn them at this period in time. The Gemara questions that. Is it possible you're saying you're burning at this period in time? You don't burn it right now. You burn it later. So le'ema lehaktiron. They take the imurim, they put it in a dish for the purpose of burning, but not that the burning transpired at this period in time. Agabe mizbeach. Kolim b'maklois. They went ahead and they braided them together, as we saw. Rabbi Yochanan came in clear like a braid. Now, usually, when you have a carbon oila, they would first flay it, they would skin it. The skin would go to the kohen, and then they would dismember it into different pieces. By these, we leave the skin on. We don't skin it. So that's what we're saying. They didn't go ahead and cut it the way you cut an oila, where you first skin it and then cut the meat. Ella or al gabi basar, they dismembered it with the or was still on top of the basar, while the skin was still on top of the meat. How do you know this? The Tanya, Rabbi Yomer. Now we're going to make a lot of comparisons between the Vayikra Tezayin to Vayikra Dalid. In Vayikra Dalid, we're dealing with the other Chatas Panimias. There are a few Chatas Panimias, right? The ones in Dalid that, that concern us are the Par Koyin HaMashiach, the Par that if the Koyin blows a psak and chorus, and the Par Helam Dovish El Tzibor if Bezdin blows in an Issa chorus. Vayikra Dalid, these are the blood is sprinkled lifnai lifnim, not this blood is sprinkled in front of the Paroiches and on the Mizbeach HaZahav and the burn chutz l'machnes. So they are really the same as the par of the Yom Kippur, with the exception of the par of Yom Kippur, the dam is brought l'fnai l'fnim as well. That's an addition, but all the way they're basically the same. So the halachas of burning them, we're going to learn one from the other. So some halachas are stated by the par of Vayikra Dalid, and some others Vayikra Tezayin. And through the venue of a hekesh back and forth, we're going to learn different halachas. That's the beautiful, nice hezbollah. What's going to go on over here? So Rabbi Yom is Nemer Khan. It says by the par of Yom Kippur, it says Or Ubasu Peresh. Rashi brings the exact pasuk. Look at Rashi. Nemer Khan Peresh. The par b'seir, it says es oiroisam, there are, ves b'saram, their meat, ves pirsham, their excrement. So we see those three components: skin, meat, and excrement. V'nemar, and it says back in the Gemara, v'nemar lahalon, it says in Vayikra Dalid by the par koyin HaMashiach, oru basoi pirshoy. Rashi brings the pasuk. V'nemar par koyin HaMashiach, or baso, as or hapar, or v'eskol b'sarei basar, al roishay v'al krov, on its head and its knees, the kirvu upirshoy. So you see pirshoy. So in other words, we have basa, we have or, we have peresh by Yom Kippur, and we have the same three components. What by Yikra Dalid by the Kohen HaMashiach, Malahalan, just like by what the Kohen HaMashiach, Al Yidei Nituach, Al Yidei Hefshit, and you don't skin it. Afkan, so to by Yom Kippur, Al Yidei Nituach, Al Yidei Hefshit. So very good. In other words, we've established that what the limud. You want to know why the par of Yom Kippur is different than any other chatas that you're going to burn it without dismembering it, without skinning it. It's because we learn it from the par kohen Mashiach. Now, where do we know the par kohen Mashiach? How do you know there that you do not go ahead and skin it? For Hassam about Karam Mashiach that we're going to learn a hekesh to us, where do you know you don't skin it? The Tanya, the kirboy upirshoy v'hoitzi. It says you the kirboy upirshoy. It's in it upirshoy v'hoitzi, and hoitzi means you take it out. And it doesn't say v'hoitzi uhu. You take it out in pieces. You're taking it out whole. So obviously, taking it out whole, right? So it's one piece. Malami shemoitzi shalem. So now, if it's shalem, and therefore I know the skin is on it. If it's shalem, the skin is on it. Now, question. Maybe so you burn it shalem. How do you know you cut it into pieces at all? Maybe you just burn the whole thing. You know, so you're telling me the following: you do burn it. You're telling me the second thing: you do put it into pieces, but not like a carbon oiler. Why? Because the carbon oiler first you flay and then you go ahead. Here you're not flaying. Well, now, so how do you know you're cutting it up? Maybe you just go ahead, take the whole thing, and burn it. Right? Says the Gemara. No. Nemer kan roishoy v'krov. It says over here roishoy v'krov. By this is by Yikra Dalid, v'nema lahalam by the carbon oila. It says the lashon of roishoy v'krov. So again, the commonality between the chatas panemius and the carbon oila is the words roishoy, its head, v'krov, its knees. And now malahalam by a regular carbon oila, al yedei nituach is throughout dismembering. You cut it up into pieces. Remember, we did the carbon tamid, the pieces they brought to we went through the whole thing. How many 13 kahana were involved? And they took the different pieces and they put it on the kevesh and they transported it from the kevesh. My joy memory. Malahana yidei nituach, just by the oil is al yidei nituach. Afkan soaked by the chatas panemius al yidei nituach. Good. A malahana al yidei hefshit, by the oil you flayed it. Afkan by the chatas panemius by parakon mashiach al yidei hefshit. Tamalayma vikir boy appear shoy. Right? Vikir boy pirsho mal tamuda. Where do you see from the word vikir boy pirsho that it has to be whole? Amar papa kashem she pirsho vikir boy, just like its perish, its excrement is inside. Kach besoroi beoiroi. So to the bus's bar. So through a labyrinth of different hekeshim, we're learning out that on Yom Kippur you take it out whole. However, you go ahead and you flay it. You don't flay it. You dismember it with the or. Dismember the or. Okay, and through two akashim, we have the hekesh between par helam davar and the seir, and we have a hekesh between the par helam davar and the carbon oil. Okay, at which point in time did the begodim come tamis? We had a machlokes. One says as soon as you leave the azara, the other one said, "Why is when you go ahead and get up to where you're going to burn it?" It says yoitzi el michutz lamachne b'sarfoi. It says you should take it outside the machne and burn it. This is what it says by the par. This is what it says by the par of Yom Kippur. So you go ahead, you take it outside, you burn it. Ulahalon atanoisein lahen sholish machnes. And by the par helam dava, you're going to give 3 machnes, guys. So over here it says 1, here it says 1, and there it says 3. Now I think I don't have the psukim over here. I might have the psukim over here. Hang on a second. Let me read the pasuk to you. Okay, it says, I think it says in Tez Zayin Chav Zayin. Ves parachatas of the serachatas shahu ves dam lechaper bekodesh. This is the para and Ser Yom Kippur. Yoitzi el michutz lamachne. You take it out michutz lamachne. V'sofu be'esh es oirosam ves besorim ves es pirsham. So it says over there. It says el michutz lamachne. Now it's mashma chutz lamachne. There is it's mashma wa machne. Now guys, there are 3 machnes. There's machne shchina, machne levia, and machne Yisrael. So machne shchina was from the Azara, from Shar Niknor in. Remember picture number 15 on our favorite picture, right? It's there. That's the shchina. Ezras Noshim had the din of Har Abayis. That's machne levia, and that went to the end of the Har Abayis. And then Yerushalayim was machne Yisrael. Those are the 3 machnes. So now, when it says you take it out in chutz lamachne, okay, it says it says 1. That's by the par of by the par Kohen Mashiach. However, lahalon by the Kohen Mashiach and by the par Helam Davar, nois nehem shalach machanais. It says you take it outside 3 machanais. So over here it says you're going to go ahead and you take it out of what? 1 machne. That's the lashon. Okay, where are you burning it? Guys, where are you burning it? If you would just go ahead and read this pasuk, I'm going to read it to you again. Tell me where you're burning it. I'm going to read the pasuk to you again. Perik Tezayin pasuk of Zayin. Ves parachatis v'serachatis shehu ves damam l'chapim v'kodesh. You brought their blood in for kapara, meaning you did it inside. Yoitzi el michutz lamachne. You take it outside the machne. V'safu beish, and you burn it. So you know what I would say? You burn it in the Ezus Nashim. You burn it in the Ezus Nashim. You leave the Azara, you leave Shar Niknar, and then you have that place with the 4 gates, the 4 chambers. Burn it there. That's what it says, right? The chutz l'machne is meaning what? 1 machne. That's what it says. However, don't leave. However, it says by the power Helam Davish al Tzibor another 3, meaning chutz l'machne, not just machne shchina, not just machne levia, but I feel a machne Yisrael. You're going to take it outside Yerushalayim to burn. Oh, so that's what Gemara is going to conclude now. It says the Gemara very geschmackly. It says Tan Rabbanan Yoitzi al michutz lamachne v'sarfu. That's what it says. What by power of Yom Kippur. However, lahalan by power Kohen Mashiach, by Vayikra Dalid and Helen Davar atanois nem shalish machnos. And we'll see why in a second. V'kan atanois nem machna achas. Good. What is that? So when you burn it, guys, we have a corollary, right? They're burning. These are synonymous. They're burnt. The only difference between the Helam Davar, Kohen Mashiach, and Yom Kippur is the Nesinas Dam Lefnai Lefnim. But you're telling me the other 3 you're burning outside 3, right? So what's the 1 over here? Why are you mentioning it over here? In Kain Lama Nema Chutz Lamachne. Why does it say Chutz Lamachne by what? By the power of Yom Kippur and the Seir of Yom Kippur. We're not using it. We're not using 1 chutz lamachne. It's 3 machnois. Loy melacha kivin sheyotza chutz lamachne achas mitamoyim begodim. You're not using it Inyan Sreifa. Sreifa is Inyan 3 machnois. I'm doing it as soon as he leaves the Azara, right then and there, he's Tameh. And that's our Mishnah, right? Look back in the Mishnah now, guys. Now, since it says Chutz L'Machne, L'inyan Sreifa, and we know it can't be speaking about burning it there because it's synonymous with the Helem Davar and Koy Mashiach, which is outside 3. So therefore, this one must not be telling me a din in Sreifa. It must be telling me a Zaitik din, a different din. What's that din? That you tell me as soon as you leave that one machne. That his clothing comes tummy as soon as you leave one machne. Now, Fred the Gemara, the Chasam Nalon, how do you know over there by Helem Davar and Koy Mashiach and Vayikra Dalid that you have to go outside 3 machnos? It doesn't say it openly, guys. How do you know? So, guys, you good? One more time. Let's Chazar Riba, okay? Let's get this together. Covered ones with Steve. You have this like this. I know that you burn it outside 3 machnos. Why? Because it says by Yikra Dalid outside 3. And we're going to see in a second how do you know that. So Mamela by Yom Kippur also means 3. But it says you burn it outside 1. So we're saying that one has nothing to do with Sreifa. That one is to teach me a din. As soon as he's Chutz L'Machne, he's Tameh. He's Tameh. That's the limud. Now, where do you know 3, the burning 3 by Koy Mashiach? Let's see it inside. Says the Gemara. V'hasamina the Tanya. V'hoitzi es kol apar. Right? It says you should take out the par. That's what it says in Vayikra Dalet. Chutz l'sholish machnos. Now, this is the Gemara talking. It doesn't say that inside the pasuk. Chutz l'sholish machnos. At oimer chutz l'sholish machnos. Since it says 1, maybe it means when you get to the Esros Nashim. When it says by the Helem Davar, El Michutz Lamachne. Now you didn't have to say it, guys. In the parsha, first is Kohen Mashiach, then Helem Davar. Shein Tamid Leimar. Sharik Fainemar. It says what? By the Kohen Mashiach. You burn the par, Helem Davar, the same way you burn the par of Kohen Mashiach. And by Kohen Mashiach already said Chutz L'Machne. So, and you just told me you're going to burn it the same place. So why was it necessary to say Chutz L'Machne a second time? If A equals B, right? So anything that exists by A exists by B. Therefore, if you'd say A, B, it's extraneous that A. So the Chutz L'Machne, the A stated by the Helem Davar is extraneous because you already know that from the A, B Hekish to Kohen Mashiach. Guess what? You know what he says it a second time? To teach me not outside the Azara, but even off the Harabayas. So in other words, now I'm outside Machne Shechina, and I'm also outside Machne Levia. So I got 2. Geschmack. Continue on. Ukesha Omer Michutz L'Machne B'Deshen. When it says by the Trumas Adeshen, it says the Lashon Chutz Michutz L'Machne. Right, what's the Lashon over there? Does he bring the pasuk? Of course not. Okay, he doesn't bring what? This is speaking about the Makom Shefach Hadeshen. It says, he has the pasuk. Which pasuk? I think it's above. No. That's not it. It's above. That's Shefach Hadeshen. No, that's not it. No, this is $12. Place where you put the Trumas Hadeshen. So it says now. It says over here. Now. Right? It says by the Kohen Mashiach al Shefach Hadeshen. So why does it have to say by Hadeshen? In other words, you're going to put the Trumas Hadeshen the same place where you put this. That means you give me a third machne. So I know A, B, I know a hekish from the extra Kohen Mashiach to extra Kohen Par Helem David Kohen Mashiach, that teaches me 2. And the Trumas Hadeshen, El Makom Shefach Hadeshen is a third. Good. So now, very gishmak. That explains the shita that what? You're going to burn it outside 3 machnos, and the what? And the tumah takes place 1 machna. Now, Rav Shimon obviously does not have this drasha because he says you only tell me when you get all the way out. So what does he do with all this Torah? There's elaborate Torah with this Akeshim limudim. What does Rav Shimon, who says the Tumah transpires only later on, what does he do with these limudim? Says the Gemara, Rav Shimon, why does he do with this chutz l'machna that it says by what? By Yom Kippur? We're using them chutz l'machna. Tell me he's tamei chutz l'machna. And Rabbi Shimon holds he's not tamei chutz l'machna. So what does he do with it? So mi boy look at the time. He needs to do the following. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Nemra Khan. It says by Yom Kippur chutz l'machna. V'nemar lahalon. It says by paraduma ganze under the Torah. It says by paraduma chutz l'machna. Ma Khan. Just like by Yom Kippur, chutz l'sholish machnos, we know it's through the hekesh between Kohen Mashiach and Par Helam Kohen Yom Kippur and Vayikra Dalid. He knows, right? Afla halon. So too, we're learning halacha vis-a-vis paraduma, paraduma. Afla halon chutz l'gimel machnos. So totally nothing to do with Tumas Begadim. Malahal Mizrach Yerushalayim, Afkam Mizrach Yerushalayim. Okay, let's go outside. Says the Chachamim. We know that the Yom Kippur's got a chutz l'machna that we don't need because I can learn everything out of what? Of the Vayikra Daled, right? Those three. And so I know when it says chutz l'machna to burn, it doesn't mean that. What does it mean? It means it's tamei. Good. What does Rav Shimon do with that? Because Rav Shimon says it's not tamei here. Rav Shimon says it's only tamei when it goes all the way over there. So he's going to say, you know what that chutz l'machna teaches me? It teaches me a din in paraduma. I would not know where to burn the paraduma, right? Where do I know that you burn in chutz l'machna? Because of the hekesh of paraduma to the par of Yom Kippur. Good, that's how I know that. And just like Yom Kippur, just like paraduma is in the east of the city, guys. How do you know that? Because it says v'chiza sheva pomim lefnei oil moyed. Remember, the wall is lower when you're going from east to west. It was lower because he had to see the oil. He had to see the oil moyed. Rabbi Yelzim Yaakov 20 and a half, the extra amma. Remember this, guys? Remember the picture? Picture paints a thousand words, right? So now you know he's in the east. So just like paradum is in the east, you burn in the east. So too, where do you burn the paran esrafim? In the east. Good, very good. Now the Rabbanon clearly do not hold to this. The Rabbanon, they use the chutz l'machna to teach me tumas begadim, right? Since they used to teach me chutz l'machna tumas begadim, heichi sarif lahu. Where did they burn the paran esrafim? You know they burnt him chutz l'sholish machnas. You don't know where is sholish machnas, right? By Reb Shimon, I know two things. I know sholish machnas because of the hekesh to what? To Paraman Esrafim by Vayikra Dalid. And I know the chutz l'machne, since I don't need it for Tumas Begadim, I'm going to use it to teach me location. It's going to teach me the Paradum of the East. Masha'enke, the Chachamim, who needed to teach me chutz l'machne means what? Means Tumas Begadim. Where, in fact, do they know that what? That location where you burn it. Guys, we're good? We got the setup, we're all good? Okay, Ari, I want to make you a shliach. Tell Meya, unless he starts coming to share, the Canadians are not going to win the Stanley Cup. Okay, you have a shlichus, okay? Please do that. Now, maybe I'll tell him tomorrow in shul, just to ruin his Shabbos. Okay, says the Gemara. Af kam mizrach Yerushalayim. The Rabbanon who taka use chutz l'machna. Where do they know location? Heichi sarf. Look at the Tanya. Heichim nisrafim. Where do they burn it? Amid beis. They burn it litzvayna shel Yerushalayim. They burn it to the east, the north of Yerushalayim. Why north? Very geschmack, guys. All Ma'aseh Chatas of Kodesh Kedoshim is in the north. Kodesh Kedoshim Shchitas B'Tzafon, right? The Shchita is in the north. So it makes sense that all Ma'aseh Chatas is in the north. These are Chatois, these Chatas Panimias. I'm going to burn it in the north. Interesting, huh? Interesting. And v'chutz shalish machnos. Rabbi Yossi says, Abeish hadeshen nisrafim, says Rashi, Sarich sheyagdim l'shem deshen mizbeach. Before you burn these paran nisrafim, you have to put the deshen of the mizbeach. Now, Rabbi Yossi is not giving us location, east or north. It doesn't seem to say, right? The Achroinim speak about it. But over here, he's just telling us when it says, want to know something else about this par has to be burnt on existing deshen. You have to burn it where there is deshen. So they would take the deshen of the mizbeach, bring it up to Harazesim somewhere, I think, and that would give us in the east. And then you go ahead on you'd have to put deshen over there. Rashi says nikru koydem l'chein makam shefach hadeshen, that it should be called the place of the spilling of the ash. Nechlal the Tanakama leitzarich, that Tanakama does not need the spilling of the ash. Okay, so now we're finished with the chutz lamachne, and we're learning another drasha. We're coming to another machlokes. When you burn the par, did there have to be existing ash there or not? It says Rabbi Yossi, it says you burn it el makam shefach hadeshen. You burn it in the place of the spilling of the ash, meaning there must be ash there. Good. Now, Amarava man tana the polyglot of Rabbi Yossi. Who's the tana who says there does not have to be ash there when you burn the param asrafim? It's Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. It's the tana. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, the Tanya. It says by the Vayikra Daled, the Parman Esrafim, Kohen Mashiach, the Helam Davar, El Shefach Hadeshen Yisaref, to the Shefach Hadeshen you should burn them. Shei the Sham Deshen, there should be Deshen there. So clearly that's Rabbi Yossi who says there should be Deshen there. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, what does Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov say? Shei Mekoymei Meshupach. It doesn't have to be that there's spilled ish. It has to be an area that is sloped. It has to be like on a mountain. It has to be an area that's sloped, but not that there has to be ish there. So he's Mano Agus. Only Abaya, the Dilma b'Mekom b'Shapachu Pligi. You have no raya. Maybe he does. Maybe then. Maybe Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says there has to be ish there, and the machlokes between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is whether it has to be sloped or not. But Einachinami Ken Zayin, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov would agree there has to be ish there. So you're not locked into saying, like Rava said, that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is the one who argues on Rabbi Yossi. Maybe the machlokes is whether it needs a slope or not, but they would both agree you need ish. Okay, Tanrabanan. The pasuk says, "Vayikra tezayin chavches v'hasoyrif." Let me see if I have the pasuk over here. V'hasoyrif oisam. It says v'hasoyrif oisam who burns them. Again, this is the par in the Seder Yom Kippur. Yichabes b'godav v'rochas es b'sor v'mayim v'yachab kein yovel emachne. So now, Vasoyrif, Hasoyrif mitam begodim, V'loya matzah says the one who actually burns it, but not the one who starts the fire. V'loya mesades nor the one who makes a pyre. The one who makes the pyre to burn them is not only the burner. V'ezu hasoyrif, who's considered the soyrif? Zeh hamasayim b'shas sreifa. The one who helps at the time of the sreifa is considered the one who's tamei. Yochel ap mishenasu efer mitamoyin begodim. If you're patching around, I might think even if you're burning it at the time it becomes ish, I might think you're also tamei. Tamelema vasoyrif oisam them oisam mitamei begodim. Only when them, meaning the power and the sail, are around, are they mitama when you're burning them. But not when they were megodim. But not when they become afer, are they mitama begodim. Once at that point in time, despite the fact you're still being oisik in the burning, nonetheless, since they're ash already, it's not considered a soyrif oisam. It's not oisam. The par is mitame, but a decomposed basar is not mitame. Begodim. My binayu, it could be nayu to shava charucha. At the point where it becomes charred, right? At the point it becomes charred. Let's see Rashi. The shava charucha. Davenita chabasa. The efer miyolehave. The basar is charred, but the efer is not there. The Tanakama, like the Tanakama, mitamoyin at sheyasu efer. The oisam karinim bay. Since it's not at the latter stage of being ish, it would be mitama. It would be considered a soyrif oisam. He says at this point in time, it's not considered what a par, and it won't be a soyrif for some. So like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov would not be tamei, like the Tanakama, it would be tamei. But I think by the time we finish this, we may know a little bit about Pachas Achremos, right? By the time we finish this, when you have a Sedra, in case Chas v'Shalom you forget this, but Peret Zayin Pasuk Chaval. He goes ahead, and this is, he does smicha on the live soyer. His father-in-law is called Vanis Bnei Yisrael. He does the vidui that's called Peshayim, L'chol Chatasam, V'nasam Osam Al Rosh HaSoyer. V'shilach biad ish iti amidbar, he sends it with this person to the midbar. V'nasa soyer love is called Vanisam El Eretz Gezeri, brings it there. It's Gezeri. We discussed this yesterday. V'shilach is a soyer but midbar. we said yesterday that it's the act of shilach to the midbar, that is the kapara, like of Shimon, it's the act of throwing it off the cliff. Aaron now comes to the oil moed, upashit is big day habad, he takes off his linen clothing, and he leaves him there. Pashtus, he's finished with this. Again, he really isn't finished with this because we're going to know the kaf and the machta, which was out of order. He goes ahead. He has to remove the kaf and machta. He has to go ahead. Again, we go according to the order of the psukim. There's only going to be three times he goes to the mikvah and 2 changes of clothing. But with this, again, this is all in Torah Shabbat Peh. He's going to go ahead, put on big day zahav, do the oila, ves am, the chipah by beisai. Okay, that's what it says. So let's see what over here now. They told the Kohen Gadol the Seyers made it to the midbar. Now, as soon as the Seyers made it to the midbar, he can now come and continue. He's not able to continue until the Seyer gets to the midbar. That's the part of the avodah. How they know that the goat made it to the midbar? They would make stations with handkerchiefs, with kerchiefs, or some type of flag or banner. And they would go ahead and wave them. You might remember in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, when they were Mekadosh Levana, they would go ahead and they would light fires, right? And they would see the fire, right? So too over here, they had like a gauntlet. They'd have the people stationed, and when it would go ahead and reach the midbar, they would go like this, and they would go back to the Kohen Gadol, and the Kohen Gadol would be able to say, "Now I can continue what I'm supposed to do, continue the avodah." Rabbi Yehuda says, "I can make a mathematical calculation. I don't have to go ahead and use these flags. I can go ahead and use a mathematical calculation." What is that calculation? So, v'halei simin gadol hayilhem Yerushalayim v'ad beis chadudoy or beis chayroin is shloisha milin. That's 6,000 amas. Holchen mil, the chosen mil, go walk a mil, return a mil, v'shaya kadei mil, and delay that amount of time. So you would know. You know that what, guys, let's say it takes 15 minutes. So 45 minutes later, after he leaves, you're good. 15, and 15, right? You know that it's good. In other words, you don't have to come onto this elaborate way of waving things. Just use your local sundial, right? Go ahead and figure it out. They had a Patek Philippe sundial, or better, a Rolex sundial, right? There's Einanias Makam Ashiris. Rabbi Shmuel said, they had a big simon. They had a red thread that was on the Pesach of the Heichel. And the Seil would get the midbar, will become white. So therefore he would know that the Seil reached the midbar. Now, we said yesterday that they did away with this because if it didn't turn white, they would get Sebrachin, the people would be depressed. And there's a din of Simchas Yontif. You can't be depressed on Yontif. Okay, anyway. Shnemar im yu chatechem kashonim. If your chatayim are like red, kashela yalbino, I'll make them white like snow. Amar Rabbi Shmamina. You see from here that Beis Chadudoy, Beis Charim, Ben Midbar Kaim was the midbar. V'hokamash malon. Let's skip the next few words. Kima shagia seil midbar. Nasem mitzvasai. The mitzvah was done. You don't have to wait to throw it off a cliff, and you can continue the avodah. Hajanach shnei seirim. Hajanach shnei seirim. Hajanach shnei seirim. Okay. Now the Kohen Gadol is going to read. Kohen Gadol is the continuation of avodah. He's going to read Pashas Achrei Mos. He's going to read Pashas Emor, and he's going to read Pashas Pinchas. Okay, and Boloi Kohen Gadol Likros. He's coming to read. What's the Likros Big Day Butz Kaira? He doesn't have to take off the Big Day Lavan. We're going to get into a discussion if it's part of the avodah. You see that could you use it for your own self or not? In other words, if there's another option, how could I use Big Day Kodesh? These are only limited to its use vis-a-vis Kedusha. If I can do something else, then what's your raya? Koira v'imlav. If he doesn't want to read Big Day Boots, Koira b'tzalias lov and mishalai. You can go ahead and use the white tunic. But the key, guys, here is he can't read the Big Day Zav. As soon as he puts on the Big Day Zav, he's going to have to bring the Oila and the Oila Sa'am, which is the avodah of any Yom Tif. So he can't be. In other words, he could read either the Big Day Lavan or put on some type of robe, but he can't wear the big day zahav. Chazan HaKnesses, now it was a shul, guys. It was a shul. I know you probably don't go to that shul, but it was a shul up there on the Harabayas, on the base of Knesses. And the Chazan was the Lashon HaChoyza. He was the one who would see the needs. Noitel Sefer Torah, he would take a Sefer Torah. There's some Masori guys that this Torah was the Torah that Moshe wrote. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote this Torah. Right? The Nois Noil Rosh Knesses, he would give it to the head, the president. For Rosh Knesses, Nois L'Sagin, the one that would take his place if he got Tameh. Sagin Nois L'Kohen Gadol. We're going to see why this whole gauntlet of giving it over. Why did the Kohen Gadol just go ahead and take it? The Kohen Gadol Oimid Makabel v'Koira Achrei Mos. Repeat Pashas Achrei Mos Perek Tezayin, the whole Perek Tezayin, and V'ach Ba'asa. And then he would read in Pashas Emor that on the 10th day in Perek Chav Gimel that you should go ahead and fast. The Goyel Sefer Torah. Then they would be Goylel and Umenicha v'Chekoy, and he'd hold it. V'Oimer, he would say Yosef Masha Karasi Lefnechem Kosav Kan. More than I read to you over here is read over there. In other words, he's going to read the rest Baal Peh. You might think Chas v'Shalom that the Torah is puzzle. That's why he's reading it Baal Peh. So he makes an announcement. Don't think for a second it's puzzle. The reason is Tircha de Tzibura to be goyel from Achrei Mos to Emor is nothing. To go ahead and be goyel with that till Parshas Pinchas is we're not going to make them wait. So Memela, he would announce, don't think for a second there's anything wrong with this Torah. There's nothing wrong with this Torah. I'm simply doing it because of the you shouldn't. The Tircha de Tzibura. Kosav Khan. Then he would read Lefnei Kosav Khan. And the 10th day in Chumash Pekudim, Pashas Pinchas, Pekudim is lashon of Bamidbar. It's called Sefer Pekudim. But Pekudim means the count. Koir al Peh, u'mevarach lo Shemona Brachas, and you make Shemona Brachas. Ala Torah, Shenasan Torah, ve'ala Avoida is Ritzei, ve'al Hoidah is Moedim. Mechilas Avain, Rashi says Moichel Avonis Am Yisrael Berachamim, and Bial Migdosh B'fnei Atzmai, Bial Yisrael B'fnei Atzman. You make a bracha on the base on Migdosh. We're going to see Rashi in a second, and on Yisrael B'fnei Atzman, Bial Yerushalayim B'fnei Atzman, Bial Kana B'fnei Atzman. Some people take out Yerushalayim. Bial Shara Tefillah. We'll see what the Gemara says about that. Haroya Kohen Gadol Kishu Kairo. Anyone who see the Kohen Gadol is reading, ain't a Roya Pavasaya and the Srafim. You cannot go ahead and view the Pavasaya and the Srafim. Haroya Pavasaya and the Srafim ain't a Roya Kohen Gadol Kishu Kairo. Not because you don't have permission to. It's the meaning of logistics. Ella Shahoisa Derech Rechayko Umalacha Shneim Shavakachas. They transpired at the same time. When they're burning it outside, he's reading. So the reason you can't view it is not halachically you can't view it; it's physically you can't view it. Now these tefillas, it's very interesting. Rashi and the Rambam have different lashons of tefillah. So the lashon of al mechilas ha'avain, if you go to 3 lines up, guys, al mechilas ha'avain is moichel avoseinu b'yom kippurim hazeh. You should be moichel the avonos of Chai Yisrael this day, and ad melech moichel v'salecha avoseinu until it says melech moichel avoseinu, and he has the same thing. Moichel avonos amos b'rachamim. Okay, now. Al Migdosh is mispalo al Migdosh. You make a tefillah on the Migdosh is Rashi. V'chaisim baruch shebocha b'Migdosh. Baruch shebocha b'Migdosh. The lashon of the Rambam is baruch ata Hashem shoichin b'tzion, who resides in Tzion. So again, the Rambam and Rashi disagree as to what the bracha was. V'al kahanim mevorach Yisrael b'rach ne'atzmai minyanim sheyashia Hashem es Yisrael v'lo yasim mihem melech v'chaisim melech baruch ata Hashem haboicha b'Yisrael. Okay, that who chose Yisrael. And finally, let's see what the Rambam says. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should accept their deeds. Which we'll see again in the Gemara. Thank you all for listening. There's Hashem. Mitzvah Shabbos probably about 10:15, I would think. Mitzvah Shabbos probably about 10:15.